Hello and welcome to Do-It-Yourself Musician. Today I'm going to make a headphone extension cable for just a standard 1/4 inch pair of stereo headphones. And what I'm going to be using is this inline locking jack. This is the NJ3 FC6 from Neutrik. On one end, on the other end we're going to be using MP3 RXB. This is a right angle TRS. And for the cable, we're going to be using a Mogami mic cable. It's a 2552, W2552, and I got 15 feet of it here. So let's go ahead and start with the inline connector here. I'm going to pull this off. And there's a strain relief chuck in there. Go ahead and make sure we get this stuff onto the cable. Don't want to forget getting it on there. Actually, this strain relief chuck can go on later because it is split. And on this here, you're going to need to unscrew this thing here. That aside, and that will get the unit to pull out, which means we're going to have to actually put this on too. And then here you can see we have the soldering on this, and this one is it is marked ground, ring, and tip. Maybe you can see that there. Looks like ground, ring, and tip on the bottom there. Alright. So what I like to do with these is just try to figure out how much distance I need to splay these out to get them soldered on, but also not be too much distance because of the chuck. So what you can kind of do is actually just measure the chuck, measure in front of where the chuck grabs by just a bit, and then we're looking at probably 15 millimeters on it. So if I strip 15 millimeters from this jacket, that's going to be good enough to still have the strain relief chuck grab on the jacket, yet give us the maximum amount of width on the wires to solder. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to strip this back 15 millimeters, but first I'm going to cut it off flush. Okay. So I'm going to cut that off flush. So I like to just use one of these Alpha knives. Very sharp blade in it. And we're just going to measure 15. Just going to eyeball it at the end of the ruler there and spin it around. Just to bite that jacket off. Jacket, if I cut it actually with the right side of the damn knife. Okay. So in here you're going to have a shield, which I'm going to separate and bring that around the two inner wires like so. And then go ahead and twist it. And so now we have a shield and two conductors. I'm going to use the red for the tip and clear for the ring. And the shield is going to be shield. So I'm going to go ahead and strip these guys. Just like that. And because of the kind of connector we're soldering to, I'm not going to worry about trying to twist those little wires or anything. I'm just going to tin them just like they are. So let's go over to the vise and tin all these wires up. Okay, got a good clean soldering iron tip. Got some 6337 solder here. It's a very fine size solder. We don't need much. I'm just going to tin these wires the best I can. And any solder dags you have hanging off are going to be fine because this isn't critical connection that we're making. It's in terms of it doesn't have to fit through anything mechanically on this particular connector. You always clean your tip off. Okay, so with this connector, this is the ground lug here. I've already pre-tinned it. And I'm going to just attempt to stick the ground wire up through the solder there. As such, and that's going to make a good connection, and we can turn it out a little bit. And now I'm going to spin this before I make the next connection here. Just go ahead and turn this in the vise. This is going to be the tip, which is going to be our red. And I'm just going to line it up by doing that. And we're going to solder her on. Just kind of wanted to pull out there. That's fine. I'm going to roll her around to this side, which this is going to be our ring connection. And we're doing the same thing. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to get in there. If you have to, you can use some little pliers or whatnot. Just try to get that to lay down a bit. And go ahead and solder that on. Tip is getting a bit dirty here. Okay, now that those three are soldered on there, we can reassemble this connector. Okay, let's reassemble this. And as always, whenever you're soldering these kinds of wires to lugs, that's kind of why I went from the inside out, is so I'm not going to touch this the barrel of it with any of the connectors and cause a short that I don't want. Just get this on here like so. Then this chuck piece, it actually has a key. It's right there somewhere. It's right there. So that'll key it in, and as you can see there, the strain relief chuck is grabbing the jacket and not the conductors. And we'll bring this up. You can hear it kind of chucking in there because it sort of self-chucks. These ones kind of self-chucking to help them not back out. On the MP3RX, it's going to be a little different, and I'll show you that next. But that's one cable in there done. So let's go to the other end and do the MP3RX. Okay, on the other end, we're going to be putting one of these MP3RXB, which is a black and gold right angle TRS 3 conductor plug. And for all these Neutrik plugs, you can look on their website and they have assembly instructions for all of them. We're doing the 3RX, so we need to strip this jacket back 20 millimeters. And then after you gather up the shield and twist it and tin it, you need to cut it back 10 millimeters, which is basically half of the length of the strip that you did on the jacket. And then basically there's a difference here it's not too much. It just kind of controls some of the slack in the right angle connector. But basically what I do is I strip the end of the tip conductor here 3 millimeters, and then wherever that falls, I cut the ring conductor to the end of that where I strip that jacket at, and strip it back another 3 millimeters. But like I said, that's, I don't know, that when you assemble these yourself, you'll figure out the way to do it for yourself, basically. And with these connectors, you really just need to get the back shell on. Everything else will fit on afterwards. So we're cutting to 20 millimeters. It's very difficult to do around the camera. So there's your 20. Alright, we'll do the same thing. We'll just gather up the shield, twist it. Like that, and then take our tip conductor, which is the red, and we'll strip that back approximately 3-ish millimeters. And then, like I said, we'll then cut the ring connector to about the length of that shoulder. And then now we'll strip it 3-ish millimeters. Doesn't have to be super duper accurate or anything. So you're going to wind up with this. And we'll go ahead and tin all these wires now. So again, here I'm using I believe it's a 2.3 millimeter chisel tip on the soldering iron. Just going to tin that. Going to tin this guy. Like I said, solder dags and stuff don't really matter on these because I don't have any tiny holes I need to shove them through or anything. Then same thing here, we're going to do that, and like I said, you don't have to tin it all the way down. Leave a little bit of fresh copper there so that thing can move a bit. And I also don't have to tin that whole thing either because I'm going to cut it. Then, just for demonstration purposes, you have that, so we can see that we need to cut it right about there. It's going to be fine. Okay, now take the tip of your plug with the solder lugs on it and put that in your vise. And I like to do it in this orientation here. You turn this a little bit. And what you can see here is that, here's our prepped wire. And our shield is going to go to this lug here. It's going to just solder on right there like that. Then we're going to work our ring wire around to slide into, there's a little kind of it's just a lug here. It's very hard to see. It's this kind of U-shaped lug. We're going to get it soldered to that. Usually, like I said, there's a little hole in there that I usually stick it to. You can also go above it because there is a sort of a plastic piece in there that will shield it from touching the tip. Connector, which is this cup here, and then that's the final thing that you put in there. So we'll clean up our iron, and the first thing I do is just go ahead and tin this little guy here with a healthy amount of solder. And then I'm going to take our conductor and get him in there. Just take your time, make sure it locks up on there good. Let's take our ring conductor and try to work it through that little hole. Okay. What I like to do is just lay my solder on top right here. And if you remember, I said there is a little plastic thing in there. Try not to melt that, which I just did a little bit there. Yeah, just make sure you got good connection, which I do. Now the final thing is to put the tip wire right in there. And you can don't be afraid to manipulate this stuff around. I mean, I'm having a little trouble, quite honestly, because I'm trying to do it around the camera, as always. But I'm actually gonna flip this. And just try to fill that cup up as best you can. Takes quite a bit of solder. And yeah, now that is locked in there. So here's a little bit better close-up look at that soldering on there. Tip ring sleeve. So now the next thing is to take your chuck and put it on. You'll want to remove this little plastic bit if your cable is like greater than, I believe, 5 millimeters. Don't hold me to that, but I believe it's what it is. But this cable isn't, so I'm going to leave it on. And that goes up just like that. Now you take your back shell, which comes over the top, and it actually keys into a keyway on both sides. Hopefully you can see that there. And then your shell comes up and screws in. And many people just try to screw this on as tight as they can, and that's it. But actually, Neutrik makes a tool for this. And if you don't have this tool, this is a thing called the HTXP tool. You'll never get these connectors assembled the proper way. But that's what these little scallops are, is they mate with this tool. And then you can twist this on. Hopefully you got it straight to begin with. Just like that. There should be no gap in there. It should be all the way tightened up. And that's what that tool allows you to do, and that's a properly made NPRX connector. So here we go. Here is our stereo cable. And in order to test this cable, you don't really need to actually test both ends of it. You can just get a meter, an ohm meter, and continuity here. I believe you can see that. And you'll just want to check between these, and you'll see that I've got nothing there, and I've got nothing there, and I've got nothing there. But it is making contact, so there's nothing and nothing, which is what you want to see. You don't want to see anything register here unless it's in the very, very, very high mega ohms. Ideally, you don't want to see anything. And as far as it making connection on this end, I'm not going to worry about that because I know that it did. I'm just going to test that in use. So there you go. That's how you make a headphone extension cable with an inline female jack so you can walk around your studio without ripping your headphones off your head. Thanks for watching.